Inside Prince William's most personal confession to Kate, why the palace went quiet. The palace setting is familiar. A public appearance. Carefully chosen words. But this time, something slipped through. And the silence that followed spoke louder than anything said. People expected formality. They heard honesty. And what sounded like closeness may have revealed quiet strain. Prince William has spent his entire life learning how to speak without saying too much. Every phrase measured. Every pause intentional. As a future king, words are not just communication, they are structure. They are protection. Which is why this moment felt so unusual, almost unsettling in its intimacy. What he shared with Kate was not dramatic. There were no sweeping declarations, no visible emotion that would normally trigger headlines. Instead, it was restrained, quiet, and deeply personal. And that is precisely why it landed so heavily. Those listening closely felt it immediately. Something about the tone felt different. Less rehearsed, less shielded, as if a private conversation had briefly crossed into public space. And then, almost instantly, the palace went quiet. No follow-up, no clarification, no reframing. That silence became the story. To understand why this moment mattered, you have to understand how rare it is for Prince William to allow personal truth into public view. His approach to royal life has always been shaped by one core lesson learned early. Say less. Reveal even less. He watched how openness affected his parents. He witnessed how emotion, once released into public space, can be misinterpreted, magnified, and used as narrative fuel. That experience taught him caution. It taught him control. So when he speaks from the heart, it is never accidental. Which brings us back to that moment. His words to Kate were not framed as reassurance for the public. They were not meant to project strength or certainty. They sounded like something else entirely. Like gratitude layered with concern. Like acknowledgement without explanation. It felt like a confession, not of wrongdoing, but of weight. The weight of responsibility. The weight of expectation. The weight of loving someone while knowing the world is always watching. And that is where the first question emerges. Why would a man trained in restraint choose that moment to be so open? To answer that, we need to look at what was happening around them. The weeks leading up to this moment were unusually quiet for Kate. Fewer appearances, less visibility, and while nothing official was said, absence always invites interpretation. The royal family knows this better than anyone. Silence creates space, and space invites speculation. Prince William is acutely aware of this. He understands that when the palace does not fill the space with narrative, others will. So his words may have been an attempt to gently shape the conversation without feeding it. But in doing so, he revealed more than intended. His confession was subtle. It did not explain anything directly. It did not deny or confirm any particular concern. Instead, it centered on Kate herself. Her strength, her resilience, her presence in his life. Yet beneath the praise, there was something else. A tone that suggested support rather than celebration. Care rather than confidence. And that is what made people pause. Royal praise is usually declarative. This felt reflective. It made listeners wonder not just what he was saying, but why he felt the need to say it at all. The palace silence that followed only intensified that question. Normally, when a message sparks wide interpretation, the palace responds quickly. Not necessarily with correction, but with balance. A new appearance. A carefully framed photograph. A shift in focus. This time, nothing. That absence of response created a curiosity loop that continues to draw people in. If everything is fine, why allow the silence to grow? If nothing has changed, why not restore normal rhythm? And if this was intentional, what message was the silence meant to send? To understand the emotional core of this moment, it helps to look at the relationship between William and Kate beyond the public image. Their bond was built long before titles and roles fully defined them. They knew each other as students, as young adults navigating uncertainty. Their relationship survived separation, pressure, and the knowledge that nothing about their future would be ordinary. That foundation created a partnership rooted in trust and quiet understanding. In public, Kate has always been the steady one. Composed, grounded, consistent. She absorbs attention without appearing consumed by it. She supports without overshadowing. William, in turn, has often relied on that steadiness. It anchors him. It softens the weight of expectation he carries. So when he spoke in a way that suggested concern, it reversed the usual dynamic. It sounded like he was carrying something for her. And that shift matters. Because in royal life, roles are not just symbolic. They are psychological. They shape how individuals relate to pressure, visibility, and responsibility. William stepping into a more protective vocal role suggests something changed, even if temporarily. That does not mean something is wrong. But it does mean something is different. And difference is enough to spark global attention. The palace quiet that followed may have been intentional restraint. Or it may have been respect. A decision to let the moment stand on its own without amplification. But in a world where silence is rarely neutral, the effect was the same. People leaned in. Royal commentators began revisiting past patterns. Comparing language. Studying expressions. Watching how William and Kate interacted in subsequent appearances. Each small detail became part of a larger emotional investigation. And still, the palace said nothing. This brings us to another layer of curiosity. What does silence protect? In many cases, it protects privacy. But in royal context, it also protects narrative control. By not elaborating, the palace avoids creating a storyline that can spiral. But silence also protects something else. Vulnerability. By not explaining William's words, the palace may have been acknowledging that they were not meant to be dissected. That they belong to a moment rather than a message. Yet once words are spoken publicly, they no longer belong solely to the speaker. That is the paradox of royal communication. The confession, personal as it felt, became communal property. People saw themselves in it. Their own relationships. Their own moments of unspoken support. That emotional relatability gave the moment power. It also made it impossible to contain. As days passed, the lack of follow-up became more noticeable. Not alarming, just unusual. William continued his duties. Kate remained composed when she appeared. Everything looked normal. And yet, the feeling lingered. Because emotional truth, once glimpsed, is hard to forget. This leads to the most important question of all. Was this moment intentional openness, or a quiet slip of honesty under pressure? The answer may lie somewhere in between. Prince William is not immune to strain. The responsibilities he carries are immense. He is raising young children. Preparing for a future role that demands near constant self-regulation. Supporting a wife whose every movement is scrutinized. At times, even the most disciplined individuals allow something real to surface. That does not weaken the institution. It humanizes it. But humanization comes with risk. The palace may have chosen silence not because there was something to hide, but because there was something to protect. The integrity of a private bond. The dignity of a moment that was not meant to become a storyline. Yet in choosing silence, they allowed interpretation to fill the space. And interpretation is rarely gentle. Still, there is another way to view this. Perhaps the quiet was not avoidance, but confidence. Confidence that the relationship does not need explanation. That support does not require justification. That love does not need commentary. If so, the silence becomes an extension of the message rather than a reaction to it. A way of saying this moment stands as it is. That reading aligns with the way William and Kate have always navigated attention. They do not chase reassurance. They let consistency speak. And consistency, over time, builds trust. But trust takes time, and speculation fills gaps quickly. As weeks passed, the conversation did not disappear. It softened, became less urgent, more reflective. People stopped asking what was wrong and started asking what it revealed. It revealed a man deeply aware of his partner's strength and fragility. It revealed a marriage grounded in mutual support rather than performance. It revealed a future king willing, at least briefly, to let the mask slip. That may be the most significant aspect of all. Not the words themselves, not the silence that followed, but the glimpse into how leadership and love intersect under pressure. Prince William's confession, personal as it felt, may not have been about crisis. It may have been about recognition, acknowledging that even the most composed partnerships require care, and perhaps the palace went quiet because there was nothing more to say. Sometimes, silence is not a void. Sometimes, it is respect. As the world continues to watch William and Kate, this moment will remain a reference point. Not because it confirmed anything, but because it shifted perception. It reminded people that behind every polished appearance is a private reality. One that does not need explanation to be valid. Whether this was a singular moment or the beginning of a slightly more open tone remains to be seen. But one thing is clear. For a brief moment, the future king spoke not as a symbol, but as a husband. And the quiet that followed ensured the world would listen.